Hi, welcome to the Museum of Obsolete Technology. I thought I should do a video explaining a little more about the museum itself and answering some questions and just basically talking about what's going on around here and what's going to be happening in the future. The Moot is a project that is a virtual museum. It's not a real museum. I can't afford to set up an actual building somewhere. But it is a collection of things that I've been accumulating for years. And in fact, I've been calling it the Museum of Obsolete Technology for 20 years. I have a whole collection of old Polaroid cameras and other camera equipment. I have computers. I have audio devices. It's because in a lot of ways, I feel like devices that are made today are less likely to be cherished and repaired and continue to be used for years, where these old devices can be repaired and shouldn't languish in somebody's junk drawer or go to a landfill when they could be used and appreciated. And so what I was doing was collecting these things, and my first thought was to put up a website, which I started to build, museumofobsoletetechnology.com. And then realized that a lot of the things that need to be displayed actually need repair and refurbishment. And so, although I had made a YouTube channel about the Museum of Obsolete Technology in general, it ended up being the tail wagging the dog, because all of the videos up to this point have all been about me repairing the exhibits. But we do have a bunch of upcoming exhibit videos that are finally in the pipeline, where I will delve into the different items and some of their history. And if I have repaired them, there is going to be a Moot workshop video for them. But these will be a little bit more about the history of these devices and putting them in their context. More like what a museum might actually do. And I might even do some pieces that are about technologies that these things use, sort of the general underpinnings of how the things even work. One thing that I enjoy about the museum is that it lets me use a lot of different interests and talents, in that I get to be a filmmaker, and I get to be a tinkerer, and I get to build things kind of sometimes. I've built cabinets and things here for the workshop, and I get to do things like design logos. And I also write and perform all of the music that you hear on the channel. So I don't use any library music. All of the music that might play underneath a segment or at the beginning and end of segments has all been written and performed by me. So it's a way of pulling all of my interests all together into one big YouTube package. We do have a lot of Moot workshop videos. In the offing, I have a whole bunch of things that get worked on simultaneously, because the problem is that you may not know what you need for something until you open it up and look at it and see what's broken. And so you have to order parts, you have to look things up, you might need specific tools, and all that takes time. So we have to have several things going at once. So I have already got the 1930 Brunswick radio that's being restored. We have a 1950s 45 RPM RCA record player. We have another 1960 record player from Magnavox. We have a 1950-ish Kellogg Red Bar 1000 series telephone, 1940s movie projector, 16 millimeter, a whole lot of things all waiting to be worked on, and most of them are actually in the process. So those videos will be coming out bit by bit over the coming months. I get people posting questions on the YouTube videos asking for advice about repairing their own items. And I don't mind answering a couple of questions, but one thing I cannot do is I can't go through an entire troubleshooting sequence from beginning to end with someone, because it's just too much time. And I have to actually do some research myself. So I may not know the answer to your question right off the top of my head. So what I will do is offer you advice for the next thing to try, and directions to go that might lead you to your solution. But I'm not going to be able to help you go through every troubleshooting step for your device. We have a limited amount of time and a limited amount of energy to devote to our own projects here at the museum. Partly it's because I started using Macintoshes back in the late 80s when they were fairly new, and partly because I worked at the Apple store in the early 2000s for a little while as one of the Mac geniuses fixing things in the back. So I have a particular expertise and knowledge about the older machines up until around the early 2000s, because those are the things that I'm familiar with from having actually fixed them. But having said that, I do still have to look up a lot of stuff. Over the years, I've collected a lot of Apple devices, and if anyone who has a collection knows, is if you have more than a couple of a thing, everyone knows you have a collection and they start giving you things that add to your collection. So I became the home for wayward Macs. I have a lot of them. In fact, at certain points, I've had to get rid of some, and some things I wish I hadn't got rid of that I just didn't have room to store. Having said that, I do have some other devices that are not Macintosh computers, including Apple II over here, some Commodore equipment, and various things will be added to the collection as we get them. I did have a derogatory comment from one viewer who was like, oh boy, look, another expert. And I don't actually present myself as an expert on all of these things. What I am is a person who has always tinkered and always troubleshot things. And so a lot of what I do is looking at how things work, figuring out how they work. If I can't figure it out, I do the research to try to look it up. Some of the things here at the museum we might restore to as close to original condition as possible, but mostly that's going to be things that are either fairly new or things that are so trashed that making them look better, making them look almost new, is not obliterating any kind of, special history that they have. They're not significant. It's not like Ben Franklin's Macintosh computer or something. If we did have something that was significant and the wear and tear on it was actually part of its story, and that story was historically significant, we would try to preserve as much of that as possible. But for the most part, what we're trying to do is, at the very least, stop any further deterioration, make things work if they can be made to work, and to make things look presentable so that they can be displayed and enjoyed the way they should be, instead of just being stuck in a storage unit somewhere and say, well, at least it's not in the landfill. I think that that's a very low bar. If you have any other questions you'd like to know about the museum, just leave them in the comments, and maybe I'll make a frequently asked questions video from time to time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time at the Museum of Obsolete Technology.